Hello. Oh. Everyone is muted, I think, except for me.
Hello.
Hi there.
Asking.
I'm sorry?
I said you caught me multitasking.
Yeah. It's the city.
Two computers, cell phones open.
Yep.
How you doing, Sergio?
Good. How's it going?
Good, good. Crazy, but good.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
I'm Brian.
Okay. So I know Brian and Rita are busy working on next week. So we'll keep this as efficient as possible. And Margarita, you said that you liked the idea of, and Sergio, you may not have seen the last emails. You liked the idea of doing the bills by their due date, but we haven't quite gotten caught up with that yet. So you're suggesting SB 10, SB 7, AB 377, and AB 1091. And I wanted to check and add to that list the one on, what do you call it? The reorganization of VTA. And
That one's 1091.
That's 1091, okay.
Yeah.
And that I don't, yesterday at West Valley Mayors and Managers, Assemblymember Lowe mentioned a bill he put forward, but he didn't say the name or number.
Which one? I'm sorry, which assembly member?
Lowe.
Hello, that's the one we talked to him about the PG&E fees and
Yes.
the liquidated damages for power outages.
Yeah, and he didn't give us a number.
I think we have that.
We
Is
do.
that-
It's hold on, it's AB 987.
Okay. So we want to keep track of that one.
It is. So it's in the energy column, which is on page 9 of the kind of bills to watch matrix.
Okay, so when we get our date sorted, we can do
Yeah,
that.
let me look that up to make sure that it doesn't have a hearing date assigned already.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I did see that email, and just to be clear, SB 10 is not due today, so I'm not sure it's the most urgent among these, but we can certainly get to it if we'd like. Otherwise, I'm fine with the plan of tackling the most urgent ones first.
Good. Okay, so I'm just looking. And okay, so I read through some of the information on the matrix from the association, and it's missing some information, so we want to be sure and cover that. Okay, so Councilmember Lopez, would you like to, I have to order the meeting here. And I didn't see an agenda come out. Did we have an agenda come out?
Oops, not just kidding. Yes, yes, we did. I knew I forgot something. Yeah.
Let's officially start the meeting. I want to read the announcement.
Yeah, I could share screen. Let me get there.
Thanks, Brian. I'm trying to get there too, but whoever gets there first.
All right, let's do this. Oh, hey Cecil, can you enable my share screen?
Yep. 1 second.
Thank you.
Bear with me. See if it worked for you now.
Okay,
There you go.
thank you. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes,
Probably too big. Is
yes.
that a little bit better?
Hold on a second. Actually, I was going to say make it bigger.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. On my large
No, it's
screen
fine.
now.
I'll just enlarge the screen. I've got it. Thank you. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. We are calling to a session the subcommittee meeting on legislation on Thursday, March 25th at 3 p.m. To protect our constituents, city officials, and city staff, the city requests all members of the public follow the guidance of the California Department of Health and Services and the County of Santa Clara Health Officers Order to help control the spread of COVID-19. This legislative subcommittee meeting will be conducted via telecommunications and is compliant with the provisions of the Brown Act and Executive Order N29-20 issued by the governor. And then I think we have our standard of public comment requirements. So I'd like to have this meeting called to order. May we don't need a roll vote, but we do want to check to see if we have any public comment. And the public comment can be on any item that is not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment?
I don't see anyone logged on, and we received no emails to the clerk's office at campbellca.gov email.
Thank you so much. If that's the case, we will close the public comment and go to the item of our agenda, which is new business. This is I have to change this thing again. The 2021 state legislation bills to watch. And depending on that discussion, we will make recommendations from this meeting and direct staff on direction. We'll provide staff direction on position letters. So we have a list of bills that are being proposed to discuss at this time. And Councilmember Lopez, do you have any bills you'd like at this time?
I think this is fine for now, but if we have time, I'd love to get to some of the areas that we didn't have time to cover last time.
Well, why don't we put them down so we know where you want to go?
No specific ones, just want to cover as much ground as possible.
Okay. So,
Yeah. But
fine.
I think we've got the pressing ones.
Okay. So
Actually, you know what? I would like, just because there was some helpful discussion on the League of Cities call, SB 15 with Portantino, I think be a good one for us to discuss.
okay.
And I think at the last meeting, the subcommittee stated that they wanted more information before making a position. So I also attached the fact sheet from Senator Portantino's office to the agenda. It's the last 2 pages of the agenda packet.
Thank you.
And was the agenda package sent out by you?
Diana Johnson,
Okay.
and it was sent out on Monday. What Monday's date was, the 22nd, I believe.
Yeah, there it is. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, and the city manager also discussed with me a bill that he heard called out at the league webinar as well, the Cal Cities webinar, AB 1181. It's regarding a temporary a return of sales tax and fees for restaurants and liquor establishments, and it would apply to us because we collect such fees.
Thank you. That's a good one. I also wanted to, I'm not sure if this is outside our jurisdiction or not, but the county is also proposing several, and has enacted several legislative regulations about sales tax, and that will impact the city. So at some point, we'll have to figure out what's the best way for the city to research that and provide that information to council.
Okay.
Marguerite, what was the assembly bill on that one you just mentioned, the number?
1181
That was SB?
AB.
Thank you.
Assembly bill. Mhm.
I'm just taking notes here so we could send out a list of what it is that we're talking about to the group here.
Thanks. So let's start with SB 10.
Does So I had a watch position, but subsequent emails from the subcommittee members indicated perhaps interest in wanting to oppose the bill, particularly after attending the, I believe it was the Cities Association legislative meeting, where the legislative action committees of the LEC was requesting support in receiving opposition. I have the mayor also provided some talking points. I believe you spoke at ABAG.
ABAG, yes.
Yeah, So I do have a opposition letter already drafted that the city manager has reviewed. I could share my screen, and I don't know if the subcommittee wants to take a direct staff now, if they want to take an opposed position.
Marguerite, I just want to clarify something you said. I did not say following the League of Cities meeting that we should oppose. I did attend and hear that discussion, but that was not my direction. I'm open to having more of a discussion, but just want to be clear on where we stand.
Apologies if I made it sound as the subcommittee. It was a subcommittee's position. It was definitely an email communication that from the mayor regarding that meeting and her the discussion amongst other cities to provide opposition letters.
Or from, yes, but I think, Margarita, you were referring to the league presentation. And I think there was a recommendation of opposing at the league. Did I miss that?
I thought that I was referring to emails from you requesting SB 10 opposition letter, given the discussion at the cities.
Okay. I didn't understand what you were saying either. So I think we're good on that. I'm looking for my letter to send you. So Sergio, Councilmember Lopez, why don't you tell us your thoughts?
Yeah, so I just pulled up the League of Cities slides. They have a watch position on this. They're not asking for letters of opposition. I'd like us to watch at this point. I think this one is likely to potentially see some revisions. I did also have a conversation with the office of the bill author because there were questions raised about it. To try to clear some of that up. That was helpful for understanding somewhere where that was coming from. So if there's still outstanding questions on specific items, I think that would be helpful. But one of the kind of where I'm at is that, this is not like we've seen with other bills. It's not a mandate. It's not, saying that we have to do this. It would give a city more flexibility as we're working in the future to meet our housing numbers, just another option to do so. And not saying that we would need to do this or that this is the right solution, but I certainly believe that we need to keep our options open in terms of meeting those goals. And happy to discuss some of the specific provisions that I think could be helpful for specific cases, but yeah, maybe just want to open it up there.
So tell us what questions and answers you.
Sorry, what was that?
You said you had a conversation and you information. Can you share what you received?
Yeah, some of the questions that came up around the ABAG discussion in particular. I know one of those was the question of overriding ballot initiatives, which would certainly be something that would concern me and that I had questions about. And the history behind this is that it's more from cities in SoCal that are stuck because they may have voter enacted initiatives that don't actually enable them to meet their legally required RENA numbers. And so then they don't really have any option for those state mandated numbers. I don't really see this as applying here, nor is it something that I would want to see us go down that path or want more legislation going down that path, but can certainly see why that would be needed in other areas potentially. But I know that's a question that came up.
So at ABAG, that was one of the primary reasons that the vote went. It passed at ABAG and at MTC, but for support. But the primary opposition by all was this concern about being able to override the legislation. What changed the conversation, which I found of interest, is two county supervisors, one from Napa and the other from Contra Costa County, if memory serves, said they wanted this because their voters had enacted regulation about development, and they wanted to override their voters. So I wasn't surprised by your comment just now about Southern California having the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm consistent in not seeing the benefit for legislation. I'll give you more examples, but legislation that is to solve particular problems versus to the common good. I think the risk of having legislative bodies override local voters is just simply outside the bounds of anything that I'm personally comfortable with. Backing that up, cities can already rezone. I agree that if you have voter approved things, you can't, but everything else that they're talking about in here can already be done. Cities can already rezone. Rezoning can already be done in advance of or during the current housing element cycle. There is no BMR requirement. There's no affordable housing unit requirement. This creates a process of spot zoning, which has been the anathema of general plans. You don't want a spot zone. It's contrary to all standard practices. And it also is consistent with why the zoning laws talk about having zoning general plan changes 4 times a year. I mean, those are mechanisms specifically set up to avoid doing spot zoning. There's no definition of the parcel size. I just read some critique and one of the, there literally is no definition of parcel size. More interesting for me is it says up to 10 units. Well, most cities, and I've asked ABAG to do a study on this and see if we can find it out for the 9 Bay Area counties. Most cities have an inclusionary ordinance that is triggered at 10. Most cities do 10. Some do it at 5, but the majority, at least traditionally, has been 10. Some cities even do 15. So saying that you can rezone it up to 10, there could be a tremendous political pressure to upzone it to 9 units. And it's not 9 units per acre, it's 9 units per parcel. The parcel could be 1 acre, could be half an acre, could be whatever. It could be a way of not having BMR units, because as I said before, there's no requirement for BMR units. There's no requirement for the parcel size. I know I'm exaggerating, but the point is, these are the kinds of unintended consequences that can happen in communities, I'm going to say, like Atherton. You could see how they would take advantage of this. If they follow some of their traditional practices, they might. And they could zone it for as few units as possible, even though the land, the parcel size could take many, many, many more. So it's an opportunity to do a workaround. There is a real preference, and that was discussed at ABAG. There's a real potential for this to develop, to benefit developers, not cities. It is following the premise of build, 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 but it doesn't help if you can't build, build, build with BMRs. Another critique was that it talks about new housing sites in tracts that would enable residents to live near more jobs than is typical for a tract in the region. Well, any parcel, I'm just talking Campbell here, any parcel in Campbell is going to have the same ability to be near more jobs than something else. If you go to Gilroy or even parts of San Jose, that may not be true, but here in Campbell, again, this is one of those one size fits all. It's not true. And then the housing sites and the tracts would enable shorter commutes, the same point. And then you go to the fabulous one about the bus routes, and we all know the bus routes are changing. And it defines the bus routes. The city of Campbell and no city in the county controls the BTA type of thing. And the Lick Spur has actually been closed. That's a transit light rail spur in South San Jose. It's actually been shut down by BTA. And then at the meeting, there were comments made from Oakland's representative, which talked about the fact that there was no requirement for disadvantaged communities, no equity in this. So the point was, why should a city make changes to the benefit of a developer and get no community benefit back? And she had a very powerful argument, and it was fair to say that at least one, if not two, executive board members voted no because of her presentation. So I think there's a lot of reasons not to support this. I think we don't have to necessarily write a letter today, depending on when it's scheduled for hearings, but it'll take a lot of change for me to find any real benefit. And the other thing is, isn't this one an emergency one too?
No.
This is not?
No.
You sure? All right. Anyway, I find no value in terms of what this legislation will do for our community, aside from overriding the voters. There's nothing in that legislation that we cannot already do and do better.
Yeah, so I think you summed up a lot of the reasons why I'm still at a watch position, Mayor. And just to be clear, I'm really thinking through the framework of, for us fulfilling our role for the Campbell community, and less so about other communities, but what's going to have the benefit. And I did ask that question as well. What is the cities can already have this rezoning power, as you bring up. And I know that a very good point that was raised last time. And this is where I really see some of the potential benefit is that the answer is that this would provide another process that doesn't get into the same expenses with CEQA. And when we're looking at, some of the discussions that have come up recently and the potential costs that are not entirely within our control that adds on to a project, really concerns me. And so that's where I can see the value of just having this tool in our toolbox for those cases. Certainly don't want to see Campbell in any way overriding the will of the voters, or some of the concerns we bring up. And I agree that the council has can make these judicious decisions, but I do see cases where it could be a positive option. And you also bring up some concerns that I shouldn't, I think could be addressed in the legislation, which is why I'm still at a watch personally for this. I can see some of the potential issues. And one thing that I did make known is that in general, but particularly for this one, a lot of these issues around tying zoning to transit, as you pointed out, really don't work for smaller cities, which don't run their own systems. And I really made that, passed on that message and made that clear, because I think that's a common fault where some of these are written for, Los Angeles or San Francisco that runs their own system within its borders, and we don't have that luxury, and most small cities don't, of course. So definitely see some of those concerns. So that's where I'm at right now. I think that definitely appreciate the discussion, and that we can pass on some of these concerns. But that's where I'm at.
I'm perfectly fine waiting in a watch position until we know more and see more changes. I just don't want to lose track of an opportunity to comment. So we'll have to ask Margarita to be watchful of these kind of dates. And we can have a quick reconvene if we need. I think one of the things I'll offer when we talk about SB 7 next, some of these bills overlap.
Yeah.
And what you just cited for number 10 as a support related to CEQA, which I don't totally agree with, but I value the comment, also happens in SB 7. So do we need both kind of thing?
Mhm.
So perfectly fine to wait until we have a sense of needing to comment.
And I'll just say as a general comment, definitely, I know it's a work in progress, but definitely as much as we can keep track of some of these key dates would be helpful. And there may, Margarita, and you may know this better, but isn't the city association tracking a lot of those dates?
So I'm on the legislative committee at the Cities Association, and they have, and it's one of my comments to the committee chair to clarify that, because they missed a date this last meeting. So yes, lesson learned, which is what my brain.
So yeah, the cities association has staff that track that's tracking this legislation. I mean, I'm staff too, but it's one of the kind of roles one of the hats I wear, right, in my role. But yes, I'm hearing you that we should be keeping a closer eye on these dates and making sure that we know when they're scheduled for hearings. But I will work. That's a good note. Andy and I at the Andy Jordan from the Cities Association, we do work closely. So I'll just reach out to her once again to make sure that if there's any updates to her tracking spreadsheet that's shared with all of us, the other city staffers.
We're trying to find the right pace for tracking because there's daily files, legislative files on all of this, and I don't know that we have capacity daily to be updating these. But Margarita, one of the things we're going to talk about is what that right pace is. Is that on Fridays, we update everything for the week, or we get Andy's report on Thursday, and then we update that on Friday or something like that. So we'll figure out a system.
Yeah. This is kind of a work in progress because the legislative committee has been reassembled this year based on the policies that were enacted last year. So it's a learning curve for all of us.
Yeah, and I'm fully cognizant that tracking these is at least a full-time job. So I also want to be realistic about that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and let's see, 278. I wanted to one I want to add to the list is Bill SB 278. That's the one which would force municipalities to pay disallowed retirement benefits.
Oh, I think that is already on the.
Should be on our list.
I'm sure it is on our list. I just
Okay.
to emphasize that one is a humdinger. Okay, SB 7.
270.
And the Cities Association summary didn't totally explain it, but let's try it.
Margarita, is that's in addition to your update in the packet?
Yeah, that wasn't one that I had tracked on this bills to watch thing. It passed the Senate passed the Senate. Did I write the date down? On March 1st. Yeah, and that one does have an urgency clause as part of it. And it's being held at the assembly right now, and it has to do with CEQA. Let me see.
Complex, if I may. It's a very complex.
Yeah. So this one I wasn't originally. I'm not very informed on. It was a bill that kind of came through the mayor's desk and forwarded on to me for review, and if there's any upcoming hearing date to let her know.
So what this is about, Sergio, I don't know how much research you've had a chance to do on SB7. It sounds very benign because it is the reenactment of legislation that had a sunset clause in it. And it's done some good things to clarify job requirements and being consistent with the sustainable communities strategy and so forth. But what it did is it changed the original bill, which was SB 995, and now SB 7. It added some new requirements to take advantage of the streamlining component. And it has to do with two things. One is that the parking has to be unbundled with any project. And unbundling is a strategy that can make housing more affordable by allowing the buyer or the renter to choose whether to pay for parking or opt out and keep the savings. The question then, of course, is does the developer decide to build all the parking and just sell out, or do they build parking because they know they're going to need it? It's a little bit of a no man's land issue. But one of the big changes here, and I'm going to see if I can find the language to give it here, make sure I've got it correctly. Let's see. It has changed the criteria, and it be something like projects of $100. It has now been up to projects of 15 million to 100 million, and at least 15% of the units dedicated to lower income households. So what it says to me, and then it has CEQA relief. So what it does is by changing the financial threshold from, I believe it was 100 million to $15 million projects, that it would apply to virtually any project of 15 units or more. I'm trying to look, I know I have notes here. Restores an expired authorization for streamlined judicial review and adds eligible specific housing projects consistent with the region's sustainable community strategy, and dedicates at least 15% of the units to lower income households, which sounds great. But then what they've done is they've dropped the threshold such that almost any project, multifamily project, will cost $50. They've dropped the financial threshold trigger to fast track CEQA to $15 million. And to me, being as sleuthing as opinionated as possible, it's another way of getting around. It's almost like an SB 35. So to me, it's a little bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing. So at least the way I'm currently reading it.
Okay. So should I add that to our bills to watch list?
That Councilmember Lopez?
Yeah, I think we should watch it. That's very informative, Mayor. It's the first. I'm really having a chance to hear about it in detail, so definitely want to learn more.
Okay.
So that one I think might have a time thing on it because it is an urgency order. And ABAG took it up last week.
It isn't currently, doesn't have a hearing date scheduled, but I will find out and I will get the fact sheet and bill summary, and I'll send it out to the subcommittee.
That sounds fine, thanks.
I'm sorry, Margaret, do you know that was held at the assembly?
No, it's being held for there to get a hearing date assigned.
Okay, It wasn't put on suspense.
No, not on suspense. no.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. The next one is AB 377. Councilmember Lopez, do you know anything about this one?
So this is the one that was forwarded by both the city manager and Mayor Gibbons. I believe it was a topic of discussion at yesterday's West Valley Mayors and Managers meeting. It has to do with it's an environmental bill. And did Sheila or did somebody present on it? It had
Yeah. Correct. That
Yeah.
was a clean water bill.
yes. So let's see, it says would significantly change enforcement, compliance, and penalties for the future of municipal stormwater permitting. If passed, all surface waters would automatically be required to support beneficial uses by 2050. Water boards no longer are authorized to use the best management practices permit term or provide deemed compliance status to permits. It requires the end of pipe monitoring and establishes a state law anti-backsliding provision. Any contribution to an exceedance of a water quality standard would be a violation regardless of whether it can be controlled, and it can levy huge fines, now authorized by the EPA as high as $55,800 per violation per day, and dictate terms that municipalities have to follow.
And just for the committee really quick, I mean, it gets complicated when you talk about water quality, environmental, but those best practices, typically you meet performance standards, but a lot of times the cities in the past with their non-point source compliance come up with best practices that actually still achieve the environmental purpose, but in a way that's flexible for cities. This just eliminates all that flexibility. It increases the responsibility and the potential cities could get fined.
Sergio, Councilmember Lopez, did I forward to you the email from Michelle Ratcliffe yesterday?
I don't think I saw that.
I can
Yes, you
forward
did.
that.
Yeah, I have it. And I'm very familiar with this one.
Okay.
Happy to weigh in if that's helpful.
Yeah, please. You're
Yeah,
there.
and I have serious concerns with some of these standards are contradictory. I do see him looking at it now. I just pulled up the bill text, and it seems like a lot of the language around drinkable has been stricken. So because some of these requirements contradict or wouldn't necessarily work, I'd suspect that this will be one that will have a lot of that language updated, but certainly have serious issues with it.
And so Marguerite's got a sample template letter that was given to the West Valley Mayors and Managers meeting yesterday. That's the email you got from Michelle Ratcliffe, probably, Sergio.
Yeah, I saw that.
So if the committee, if you want to take an opposition position, we can use that letter as a template.
So can we tell anything from schedule? Sergio, are you looking at the information? Can you tell if there's a schedule on this one?
Margarita has that, right? It's April 20th. Is that?
Well, I saw it on Leginfo. It said April 21, but I'm seeing the coalition's letter and it said April 7th. So I wanted to reconcile that. But I looked it up just an hour or so ago, and I thought it said April 21.
Yeah, that's the next hearing date.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So they're and then my understanding is that they're due the Tuesday before. So the
Yeah.
let's-
At this point, not without the changes, we could have a position of oppose unless modified. But the presentation from our water JPA CEO was very, very strong against. So want to make sure that we have the ability to act. So let me ask you this, Councilmember Lopez. I'm perfectly fine to watch it. And then if we have to write a letter, we can write a letter that says we oppose or we oppose unless modified. And depending on the language at the time we have to submit the letter, we could do one or the other.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm, if you ask me right now, I'm leaning in oppose unless amended, but definitely, yeah, I'm open to waiting a little bit since we have almost a month.
And for my information, can I learn about what type of amendments you are looking for in the language?
Some of, again, especially in the first language, which it does seem as if they're starting to clear some of this out, but the first version that I saw, some of these phrases are not well defined in terms of the standards that it would need to meet, and in fact contradict each other. So just making sure that there's definition, and then Mayor, can you say more about the concerns at the presentation that you saw?
Well, in the presentation that you should have, I'll see if I can open it up. She gave a litany of concerns.
Was this it? I have her presentation, but I only see the last slide that discusses 377.
I can tell you just from my experience with stormwater and clean water, like I said, a lot of the things that the cities do is trying to get at the objectives and reach the goals, but there's some flexibility to allow alternate methods to achieve that. And the regional board has to review that and actually approve those alternate methods and make findings. This eliminates any flexibility for us. And to Sergio's point on the standards aren't really clear of what we're going to be held to then, because it will be a one size fits all.
So let's move on and just simply say we'll watch it with either an oppose unless modified or an oppose, depending on the information at the time we need to submit the letter.
Okay.
Is that okay, Councilmember?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, next one.
AB 1091.
Oh, that's the VTA bill.
Yeah.
I saw no hearing date set. I wasn't sure if there was a request from one of our coalition members or another city for a letter, or
The Cities Association, I have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure they voted against and were submitting a letter. But I have to double check myself on that. But I'm 99% sure they voted against.
and is the subcommittee ready to take a position?
So Sergio, you know the most about this.
I think last time we discussed, both of us had major concerns with it.
So oppose.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll draft a letter for your review.
Okay. And anything, what else have we got?
SB 15,
Okay,
or did I skip them?
Which one is that, Margarita?
It's the Portantino bill. I believe Councilmember Lopez wanted to discuss once again.
and I'd like to do SB 6 if we have time. So SB 15,
Yeah, this was one where I thought the discussion at the league presentation was particularly helpful. They, as I recall, had not taken a position, but were leaning toward supporting. And I see the benefit. Mayor, I think you had some questions around maybe the purpose, but this is the bill that provides funding for transitioning from commercial to housing, and can definitely see where it would be helpful. Again, it's not a mandate, but it is just offering another set of resources for cities that want to do that, to help ease the drop off in revenue. So don't necessarily see a downside to it.
Okay, so can you by chance explain why cities can't already do this?
There just isn't, cities can do it, there just isn't that, the funding. It wouldn't change anything from what I'm understanding for the ability of cities to do this. It just provides, a fund for them to help them do so.
So I remember scanning this very briefly. It didn't say, did it say where the grant money was coming from? Because there's another bill someplace that talks about a bond. So where would the grant funds come from?
That's a good question. That didn't come up in the, in the presentation.
And the criteria. So I would ask where the grant funds come from. What's the criteria for awarding the grant?
Mhm.
You'll find that a lot of grant programs from the state, the money goes all to the big cities. It goes to San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, and LA, and rarely Sacramento, but rarely gets down to our level. So that happens locally, never mind
Yeah.
state. So I would question where money comes from, what the award criteria is.
I could tell you the award criteria in the bill. Grant awarded to each eligible government would be equal to 7 times the average amount of annual sales tax and use tax generated from each idle site for the 7 years preceding the date of the government's application. And
Okay,
this is one of those budget trailer bill. This is a budget amendment, so I'm guessing it's coming out of state general funds.
so that could be something good. Again, I would just be cautious, and I am definitely a local person here on all of these. I do try in my ABAG role to be sure I think more broadly, but in this conversation, I'm thinking particularly about Campbell. I'm trying to think where we have a situation where that would happen. So the closest one I can come up with would be the one that's already come before council, so I can feel comfortable mentioning it, is the one with the Payless Plaza on Hamilton at, think of the name of the street, where they wanted to convert that site to a mixed use project. So what would the grant money be used for? How would that support a project? Is there any BMR housing requirement with that grant? I appreciate the fact that
It says that housing developments have to be affordable to very low and low income, but I don't see quickly in the description how much of it would have to be affordable.
Okay, so I would have it, this is my challenge, and we mentioned it on the other project at the culinary site. The city already has the inclusionary ordinance. And in my consistency, I've always said that the density bonus, which I think virtually every project eligible in Campbell has gone for, overrides our inclusionary, and we get so little benefit from the that we want to be sure that anything that comes through like this is over and above the minimum, because they could double count. This could be another case where, well, if you've already got low and low in your project, that's all you need. And you get the grant, but you don't get any real benefit to the community.
This requires 100% of the development's project total units, exclusive of managers units, are for lower income households and for moderate income, but moderate income has to be 20% below market rate for similar size units, which is low income.
Okay, so 100%?
100%.
Okay, so that has some real potential.
And it's not a mandate. It's up to the city to decide whether we
To do
want
that,
it to
that's
happen.
correct.
And Mayor, you had a question about kind of where, or why is the money going to? And the way they described it in the presentation is that, and I see this in the fact sheet, is that it's meant to replace the drop off in sales revenue during that time period when when you lose that commercial sales tax.
Right, when you take it, when you demo and get
Yeah.
it and build. Yeah.
That's the way I read this, and that's probably why they picked 7 years to give you enough time out that you recoup some of that lost revenue for
Yeah,
at least 7 years.
so it has potential, has potential.
So continue to watch or support.
I would say watch, but I'd say support with, in this one, I would say support with amendments. I'll reverse it, and that just gives us an opportunity to tweak the language a little more if we think we need to at that point.
Okay. And amendments in which area, just so I can note it?
To be honest with you, I would have to read more.
Okay, all right.
Get that out.
Are you okay with that, Sergio?
I'm fine with that and watching for now. I'll just be honest, after the presentation, I'm supportive of this one, particularly because I do see examples where, either would have been or could in the future be very helpful.
So I don't disagree. I'm just not, I haven't read this one, so I'm not as up to it on, but it sounds good.
Yeah, that's fair. And I do think the fact sheet is helpful. I just took a look at it.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
maybe you want to watch for the time being. There's no date set on this one yet, I don't think. Marguerite, do we have dates?
SB 15, I
We
don't,
could get you a little bit
April-
more information on that
April-
and understand what those standards are, if that makes you feel more comfortable.
The committee hearing is April 5th, so that's
Oh, it is coming up.
fairly close. Yeah.
Okay, and you need it the Tuesday before, so that's now.
Yeah.
So do you want to take a
Thursday.
support position?
Well, Councilmember Lopez, I'll go with what you want on this one. I'm not as familiar with it, so are you okay with straight support, or do you want support with amendments?
I am supportive, but would want you to be comfortable. Would you like more of a chance after the meeting to review?
Well, the letter's got to go out Monday, Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday.
I'm looking at their deadline right now, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
So-
meet on Monday the 5th. Position, I don't see the Tuesday, yeah, the Tuesday before.
Yeah, so I'm not going to have time to in any detail, so I leave it to your discretion on that one. I'll go with what you know.
Okay. I'm supportive.
All right, I'll draft a letter, support, April to the 30th. Okay,
Yeah, it's tough with these deadlines that also keep changing, and so appreciate it.
no problem, okay. And I apologize, but we skipped over AB 1181, which is one that we added, or that the city manager wanted to propose to you for discussion. That was also a result of his participation in this Cal Cities webinar. It has to do with fees and license fees. So it would prohibit cities from collecting license fees from restaurants between January, so it's retroactive January 1st, 2020 to December 31st of 2021. And then we'd have to refund to restaurants any license fees collected during that period. So we wouldn't collect and then we'd refund.
So this is one of those that you didn't see coming. If we retroactively have to go back and refund business license for all the restaurants and bars, I don't know what that number is, but it's probably a large number for us.
Oh, it probably, yeah, I can only imagine.
So I was concerned with that. I get one to support businesses, but they've already paid if they paid the license. It's the retroactive thing's painful. It makes it hard to budget when you keep retroactively going back, but that was my only concern.
I would vote against this.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear oppose to me.
Okay,
Just could really result in some chaos.
okay. All right. And then and then I'm not sure there's any other bills from the matrix that you wanted to discuss.
So I was just taking note of the ones we talked about today to add. I think we missed AB 987, which was Lowe's.
That's already on the matrix, but yeah, we don't have a committee position on it. Subcommittee position.
AB 987, and then I think we missed SB 278 and SB 6. We want to talk about AB 987?
Sure.
That was the one that was brought up in mayors and managers yesterday, Liz, with Evan, basically sets forth liquidated damages for PG&E for power shutoffs. Try to create some accountability for advance notice.
He was not optimistic about its success, but he thought it was important to get the conversation out there.
Yeah, he was asking the West Valley cities to help support that, or at least support the conversation. Maybe we want to hold a watch position right there on that
Well,
one.
on that one, it might be useful to write a letter of support now, so he's got more names behind him. We need to know, probably need to know a little bit more if there's a sheet on it, an information sheet on it, so we know a little bit more. But I would be okay with this one, Councilmember Lopez, to be proactive in support of this, if this is where when we find out more, we agree to.
Me too. I agree. I don't see a hearing date for this one, so we may have some time, but I think earlier is better.
Yeah, we'll mark that down as a support. And then let's see, we're missing SB 278 and SB 6 are the only two we didn't talk about.
Okay, so SB 6. Let's see, this one. This bill designates a housing development project, a parcel within a commercial zone not adjacent to industrial sites, as an allowable use in on a neighborhood lot if it complies with various requirements, one of which would include the density for the housing development must meet or exceed the density appropriate for low-income households according to the jurisdiction. So this one has better language. So to me, this is a good example of conflicting legislation. This one to me has some better language because it specifically speaks to low-income housing, but it doesn't say how much. I mean, we already have an inclusionary ordinance. So the project has to pencil out to include that. Our ordinance doesn't cover only lower, it goes lower, low, and moderate, right? And we do it by our RENA numbers. The good news is the new RENA numbers have proportionately changed the allocation to lower and low. So what we used to do, I'm picking numbers, out of 10 affordable units, we might have had 3 low, and 4 low, and then whatever the remaining is, 3 moderate. The numbers are now going to change so that you'd have to have 5 low, and 4 low, and 1 moderate. So I'm not sure. And again, that is specific to the methodology that is being applicable to the Bay Area. So this has potential, but if you read it just the way it is, there's no guarantee you would get any more low-income units than you would automatically get for any project.
I think what they're suggesting, Liz, is that you're at you do it at the densities that meets the presumption of lower income. There's certain zoning at certain densities. Typically in suburban areas, it's 20 units per acre. It could be 27 units per acre in some areas. If you zone at that density, you don't have to demonstrate affordability. It's presumptive that it's affordable.
Okay, I do know what you're talking about there. The density for a housing development must meet or exceed the density appropriate for lower income. So Campbell's all zoned for 20 units an acre, and in some places 27 units an acre.
Yep. So those are the densities it's required, it's suggesting. If you zone at those levels, there's a presumption of affordability, and it would trigger this new law.
So I'm wondering why it's needed.
That's unclear. The league had an opposed unless amended.
Okay. So if we can check the date on this, and maybe all of us can learn a little more. Sergio, do you know much about this one?
No, I would like to. I don't recall whether we skipped over a bunch. I don't recall if there's a lot of discussion around this at the league presentation.
There wasn't a lot. We can find out more. We'll indicate this as watch and get more information on it.
I do see that the bill text does differentiate between very low and moderate. It uses that language throughout. But I would also like to find out more.
So I think at some point I sent to staff, and I can probably find it and do it again, the formula, the RENA formula. So you'll see what the new criteria is. And it is specifically to solve the problem of getting more low and low units.
Yeah.
We'll get more information on this one.
Okay. Yeah, just check the date. Thank you.
And I'm not seeing a next committee date.
All right, and then the other bill that we said that we wanted to talk about, that we haven't yet, is SB 278. And that's on your list, right, Margarita?
Yeah, it's the
Governance.
yeah.
That's the PERS.
I'm sharing my
disallowed
screen.
compensation.
It should be. Am I sharing my screen? I think I am, right? Yes.
Yes. Okay. 278. Can you make it a little bigger? Is it? Establish new procedures under public employees. Oh, yeah, this one. Cases which the person, yeah. This is a bad one. It says the bill would require that contributions made on the disallowed compensation for active members be credited against future. It's basically saying that has based on a disallowed compensation that conflicts with whatever, and other specific laws must thus unpermissible. This bill would also apply. Where is it here? Isn't this the one that says that you have to pay?
Yes.
Yes.
Disallowed benefits, yes.
Yeah. No, I can't imagine.
That does have a hearing date, Senate Judiciary Committee on the 6th, April 6th.
So we got to get a letter out on this. Councilmember Lopez, do you know anything more about this bill?
No, just for my clarification, where the bill says contracting agency, is that referring to the city in our case?
Correct. Yes. You know, PERS have done this a little bit. PERS law is interesting because I know in past we've had appeals with PERS and we've had to pay
Yes.
the member's contribution as our penalty. I think the kicker with this, and I'll have to find out more, is the retroactive. It goes all the way back to determinations made in 2017.
Yeah. So it's another. Yeah.
I can get you more on this. This is coming up soon though, Andrea, or I'm sorry, Margarita.
Yeah, it's the hearings, the April 6th, so the letters are due Wednesday, the 31st.
So I'm fine to oppose.
I would think we would oppose. Did the league have a position on this? Does anyone recall?
Yeah, I believe they also wanted to oppose.
I think so too. Sergio, do you remember this?
Oppose, I just pulled it up. So
Thank you.
it's, it was an oppose.
It was a clear oppose.
Mhm.
Would the committee be comfortable opposing this?
I'm fine with opposing. Sergio?
Um, I'd like to do a bit more research, but I'm, leading in that direction anyway, and would probably be fine.
What's your question? What do you think you'd like to know? Maybe Margarita or Brian can help you.
I guess I'd like to, maybe Brian, I'd like to better understand the potential impact to city finances. Just kind of generally speaking.
Yeah, in reality, we shouldn't be keep enrolling people for disallowed benefits. I mean, generally, we try to avoid this, so hopefully we don't have, but we do have cases with CalPERS. We do have employees that appeal benefits. So I can get a little bit more on the impacts to you. And we can be prepared to oppose it, and I can follow up with Sergio and see where he is. If he's comfortable at that point, we can send a letter. If we're not, we can continue to watch it.
It's a bit, well, we should send a letter with the date coming up. But what would be the benefit? What would be the positive to paying disallowed compensation? And does that open a Pandora's box to many other things? Because we don't, I may be wrong, but we don't make the decision about disallowed compensation. It's all made at the Public Employees Retirement System.
Yep.
So it has nothing to do with a city decision. It is the decision of the retirement agency.
I see it just putting the liability on the cities, and so the employees get made whole for errors where there's been allowed compensation, even if the employee knew that compensation shouldn't be. The city doesn't catch it and disallow it, and we report it and require the member to pay their share of it. The member gets refunded, and the city pays for that disallowed benefit. So it really just puts a burden on the city to enforce those laws and not be a per scofflaw and be enrolling your employees. I see it as an employee protection. It depends your perspective if that's a benefit or not. It's certainly not a benefit to the city as an employer. It's certainly a benefit to the employees.
Yeah, and it does have a couple of stories, which is kind of interesting in the legislation, where that has happened. I could certainly see from the employee standpoint where that could be positive, and where the state might have an interest in establishing some sort of funding, but not sure that's the role of the city, or should be. I guess, Brian, to your point, there could be bad actors, but I don't see us as going down that route.
Yeah, I would look at it that if I'm reading this in the hearing correctly, basically a decision is made by the retirement system saying that these benefits on compensation are not allowed, which is their role, and that's part and parcel of what that program is. And just because that program says you can't get this compensation, the city has to fill in the void.
That's correct.
I mean, you're a member of a system and you go by the rules. I mean, there may be problems, but the potential for a city going forward with something like this is really pretty rough. I just don't understand I understand the logic of cases, but I don't understand the logic of the law.
So, sir, do you want to watch this for the time being, get some more information? Or do you want to?
Well, I mean, I guess, again, I definitely see the benefit to the worker from a city administration standpoint. I'm fine with opposed, but also don't necessarily see that I'll end up having that much of an impact.
Hopefully it has no impact on us because we're not paying compensation on disallowable compensation.
Yeah, but I'm fine with opposed given the time frame on this.
Okay. I would imagine the labor groups would be sending in support for these. That's probably who's supporting these are labor groups.
Yeah.
Okay. We got that, Margarita?
Yes.
Okay, so the only question I would ask as we close is if Margarita could take a look at any bills that are coming up that we might want to meet on soon.
Okay. I'll populate a hearing date column on the matrix.
Okay,
Excellent.
then we can prioritize, because we might need to meet another 2 weeks, because this stuff is moving fast right now. So we want to be sure and be up to date as much as possible.
All right, team.
Thank you.
I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
We'll
Great
catch up
session,
with
thanks.
everybody soon.